Can I ask two questions?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, well, first, hi.
Hi.
I suppose I'm here to represent the furious trans youth.
Okay.
But I had to say, what you said about your interactions with students and how they were unable to provide a positive vision for the future, if you were to ask me my vision for a positive future, I'd be able to describe a series of things that I'd like to see happen, such as universal health care, a democratization of the economy through worker communes and stuff like that. But all of those things that I can imagine, or equal rights amendment, all of those things, those all can be done within the current system. What you've outlined in your speech seems to be a huge description of things that are bad with capitalism, which I agree, but I'm not convinced right now that we need a revolution. And furthermore, I'd like to turn back to you. What is your positive vision for the future? Because so far you have not outlined the structure of the economy that you're planning for, how workers will reap the benefit of their own labor. I'm curious to hear that. And then I have a second question once you're done with that one.
Well, why don't you do both?
Okay, and my second question would be, who are you voting for this November?
Who else wanted to ask that?
There was a previous thing I'd seen that Bob Bacon said that who's voting in the 2024 election?
Okay, so those two people asking that. Okay. Oh, you wanted to add? Go ahead.
Can you maybe just... I assume that your answer to the voting question would be that you're not voting for either of them based on your current description. And if that's the case, I just wanted to know, when me and my trans friends are being put on registered and sterilized and, thrown out of our jobs because Donald Trump and his fascists got elected because you didn't vote for the lesser of two evils, what will you be doing?
Okay. Well, I'm going to put these together. We're going to not take more questions yet. We'll get to you, but I don't want to pile more questions since this got very rich and worth taking a minute on. Your first question is, do these things I'm describing really require a revolution? And I could just say, look, on the evidence, people tried to pass the ERA for, they started... No, it wasn't... Who knows? Okay, we have Carol Downer. I'm like, yeah, I'm trusting you. Yeah. So we could do something simple and say, well, it hasn't worked yet. Okay, that's true up to a point. But you're saying, but is there something in the nature of the system that says that it couldn't be done? I can't say that the ERA could never have been passed, but I can say that the oppression of women and oppression based on gender and sexual orientation cannot be wrung out of this system. And look, patriarchy predates capitalism, long predates it by thousands of years, but it did emerge with the division of society into masters and slaves, into oppressors and oppressed and rulers and ruled over. And the whole notion, which is still playing out today, that women should be reduced to their reproductive capacity or their sexual services, that they're reduced to sex objects or breeders, comes from the need to control private property and inheritance from one generation to the next. It's built into class-divided society. And out of that, and bound up with that, is rigidified gender roles, is sexual norms that are very restrictive and repressive. There's complex history here, but it's woven together. The state interest in controlling these things and religious mandates to control these things are rooted in class divisions. So capitalism inherited this. It didn't create it. But now it's built into its structures. The family is the economic unit. The patriarchal family is the economic unit of society. It is part of what holds the fabric together. It's how children get reared. It's how their needs get met. It's either one way or the other. You can't have communal and collective care for children as long as you have private divided classes and people competing for survival. That's just a change that happens. So you need women in a subordinated role. You need this patriarchal family as long as you have capitalism. And it's been strained, it's been stretched, it's been through struggle, but it keeps snapping back. And that's part of what you have going on right now with this violent reassertion of patriarchy, with the taking away of the right to abortion, with the violent attacks and legal and extra-legal attacks on trans people, LGBTQ rights that were, some of them not won yet, some of them only recently won, but they're being campaigned against very viciously. And what you're describing of the threat of trans people being put on registries, of all the horrific things that were in The Handmaid's Tale and stories like that, which are all rooted in real scripture and ideas that have emerged in the real world, all of that is real. That's really the stakes that we're looking at. But I would say this. Two things. One is that the Rev Coms and BA led in making this analysis, I think, have done more to lead people to stand up against and fight this fascism in the way that's meaningful. Going back to when Trump was first elected, I was part of this, Andy Z in the back was part of this. We united with people from throughout society to start a group called Refuse Fascism to drive Trump out of office through mass political struggle, which people have done all over the world to drive out hated dictators and regimes. And through mass struggle, which is the way that actually could have unseated him and reversed not just him, but the momentum in society. We waged massive struggle and have continued to lead people to stand up against the whole direction he's taking things. In 2020, because people hadn't stood up in that way and in their broad numbers hadn't responded, and it really was the case that he was going for re-election and a second term was going to be just like it will be now, not a repeat of as horrible as the first term was, but a whole much more radical remaking of society. We said, and BA said at that time, as a secondary aspect, while still fighting for people to get into the streets and resist this and not let this go down, as a secondary aspect, this is a rare circumstance where the stakes are so high that people should vote for Biden to create as much of a precedent in the public eye that first so that Trump doesn't get elected and so that there's... No, I'm not done. They are high, but I'm going to get to that. This is not as simple. I don't want to be simplistic, but that there was a need to create more difficult conditions for Trump to stay in office through principally struggle in the streets, but also through trying to deliver an electoral defeat. And that barely kept him out. It made a difference, but it barely kept him out. But things have moved on since then. And two things are profoundly different this time around. Number one, Trump's not staying out. Even if he loses, I don't think people, it's very real, the registry. But let's be real, this motherfucker almost did a coup last time. He's purged the party of anybody who stood against him. Liz Cheney, who was hardcore, high-up, fascist Republican mainstay, is out. These people are out. He just has kneecapped the RNC head to put in election deniers. These people are not, and they have way more people armed to the teeth, white supremacists, MAGA fascists, and Christian fascists who are ready for civil war to wipe everybody out they hate if Trump gets convicted or if he loses the election. So and Trump says he's not going to accept an election loss. So one thing that's changed is even with an electoral defeat, things have moved and the fascists have advanced to a degree where they're not going to respect that in the same way, number one. And number two, when you have a chance to actually lift the whole system off the backs of humanity, which is what could open up in the kind of all-out crisis that we're going into. That is more real, and that is going to do more good for the trans people, for women, for black people, for the people of the world, for the environment, than trying to stave off Trump when it's just not going to work within this and let this system recoup and recover. We have a shot to change the whole world. We have a shot to change the whole world, and you don't throw that away. Because honestly, then we'll be sitting here and saying, man, how do we let it pass? The planet is on fire. How do we let it pass? It's not just genocide in Gaza, it's spiraled out into nuclear war. How do we let it pass? Because these Christian fascists are not letting up. I really think you're right about what they're intending to do and how serious they are, but I do not think you're right to think that they're going to be held off with an election. And I do not think you're right to think that we don't have a shot that we should aim for now to end the whole thing and get to a whole different society. And I did paint a picture, and we should get into it more fully, of what the new socialist state would do. It does actually give people the right, the most fundamental right of all, which is to come together and decide together how to utilize the resources of society, how to plan the economy, the education, the media, all of these things in line with digging up and overcoming thousands of years of oppressive relations and traditions chains. And it's very concrete. And it's broken down here. Healthcare, not based on profit. Ending wars and the basis for wars and nuclear weapons altogether. It talks about overcoming and uprooting national oppression and sexism and other forms of inequality. It's very concrete and it's broken down, and you can do it when you untether the economy and people's lives to the system of capitalism and its drive for profit. So that's my answer. And I won't be, just to be very concrete, I won't be voting this year for any of them because I don't think it's going to be meaningful. It's not going to have even the chance of having that meaningful holding pattern, a staying off pattern that it had last time. So you had your hand up, and over here. Yep.